In this video, we're going to look at applying the trigonometric ratios setup only. First, we're going to start with some vocabulary. The definition of trigonometry is the study of triangles, their sides, angles, and more. So the three trig functions we're going to look at in this unit are sine, cosine, and tangent, abbreviated SOHCAHTOA, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. So the first trig function is sine. So if we're taking the sine, it's a function, of our angle theta, that's going to equal the opposite over hypotenuse. And as you can see in the pictures, we're talking about the sides of my triangles. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so you can see by the way that these are written, that's how we get SOHCAHTOA. Sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so that's how we get our abbreviations, which help us memorize the trig functions. These, the way that the trig functions are written here is how they are actually spelled, but we're going to be using abbreviations when using them to solve problems. And if you look, when we're talking about sine, cosine, and tangent, it's all in terms of our angles. So if I'm looking at this angle here, my opposite side is going to be the side that does not form that angle, and the adjacent is going to be the side that does. My hypotenuse is always going to be across from the right angle. Same thing at with the triangle on the right. If I'm looking at this angle here, opposite does not form that angle. Adjacent side does, and hypotenuse is across. So example 1, I want to find the sine of C and the sine of B. So for the sine of C, I look at that angle to start, and because it's sine, that is going to be sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. So I look for the side opposite C, which is 20. And the hypotenuse is 29, so that's how I get my ratio there. The next one I want to look at is the sine of B, which is still that opposite over hypotenuse. But now I'm looking at angle B. I look at the side opposite and my hypotenuse, create that ratio. Next I'm looking at cosine. So cosine is my adjacent over hypotenuse, so I start with my angle. Pick the side that is adjacent, which would be 45, and then my hypotenuse, 53, and create that fraction. Then I have cosine of R, so I start with angle R, look at the adjacent side over my hypotenuse of 53. And lastly is tangent, so tangent of angle S, I look at that angle. Tangent, remember, is opposite over adjacent, so I use the opposite side 60 over adjacent side 25. And then I have tangent of angle R, so I look at angle R. I have the opposite side, which is 25, over the adjacent, which is 60. And that is how we set up our trig functions.